Okay, guys. So, in this session, what we are going to do, we are going to learn about what is an MCP server and why do LLM needs an MCP server. And moreover, we are going to do some hands-on practice with Google AI and Google ADK. You guys can see. I think this is pretty cool, and they recently launched a Java library as well. So this is good. I talked to some of the TypeScript developers at Google, and they told me like that's incoming as well on NPM pretty soon. So yeah, this is going to be a very quick hands-on on how to do that. But before getting into like all this coding stuff, let's understand a bit of theory. So what is an MCP server? An MCP server is Model Context Protocol Server, which is like a smart middleman between a user and an AI. So it's basically like an HTTP, but it's just a bit smarter. If you guys can understand, LLM models are good at generating text, processing information, reasoning, but you understand that they are not everything. They don't have everything inbuilt. They don't have tools. They don't have ability to Google search, and they cannot do everything on their own. They're not like full-fledged AI, something like which can do anything. Like so that's not true. So what an MCP server does is it basically helps the LLM model, and you can understand like model context protocol is like it provides context basically to to what we are trying to do. It basically is a smart, I would say, intelligent orchestrator which decides what needs to be done, and it calls the right tools as well as manages multiple steps. So yeah, here is a cool analogy which I got for you guys is like HTTP is like a waiter, right? In a standard web application or Android or mobile application, you basically send a request, HTTP request, and the server takes the request, processes it, does something with it, and sends back the JSON or whatever result you get. MCP is like a project manager with AI assistant. MCP is like a project manager with AI assistant. And what it does is whenever you give it a request, it breaks it down into small steps. It basically takes a look at it and tool A, you can do this, tool B, you can do this, and then combine all the result and then use LLM to basically respond to your request. So I think that's a hands-on idea on MCP server. I think there can be other stuff as well. There can be a lot of stuff which you guys can read. I think I basically use like some good sources to summarize all of this. But yeah, let's see what is like what we are going to do today. So we are going to build basically a in memory session. We're using Google AI development kit, which is very recently launched. I think they released Python 1, Python ADK about a month ago from now. But yeah, I think that's very helpful in organizing everything. And you guys can read from here, google.github.io/AIADK docs. You guys can read what it does. And it has, I think this is a very great documentation to read. And I'll just switch to dark mode because, who doesn't do this dark mode? Yeah. Why do we even have light mode? Yeah, but jokes apart, let's just move forward with this. So I think the first thing, let's move to the code. I think I have this app.py and env file, and what you guys will need is basically API key from Google, which I'll show you how you guys can get. So let me just start by something pretty basic. Close this actually. Yeah, something pretty basic, which is let's just get on with. Okay, yeah, cool. So what we can do is we can create an environment. So we create a virtual environment. Then after creating a virtual environment, what we're gonna do is, and keep cleaning. I'm just adding this to bit ignore. So once we are done that, I'm just going to activate the virtual environment, and now I need some libraries, which should be pretty straightforward. But I think what we need is we need I will download obviously this pip install Google ADK. Let's just copy paste. It will do its thing. And I think we should be good. I think that's all we need. And we'll be using another thing as well. And let me actually give you a demo on why do we need, because I think it's still unclear, right? You guys you must be using LLMs, everywhere in your daily life. So why exactly, what is MCP? And is it just a buzzword? Because a lot of people are saying it's just a buzzword. But it's more than that, honestly. Obviously, like the big companies use a lot of stuff to sell their thing, but most of the time, it's not totally a scam or whatever you guys can say. Yeah. So demything, demythifying, whatever all the buzz is going on. Yeah. So let's just actually build something like demo.py. And for this demo, actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just use from Google. I'm going to import GenAI, and I hope I do have GenAI installed. Otherwise, I'll just go and install. And then from dot env, I just need to import .env and then load it. And then simply I'll set API key to os dot get env something, and this should be Google API key. Google underscore API underscore key. So it would be something like this. You guys can just paste your API key into your env file, which I already have here. So let me actually show you how to generate this API key. So if you guys can go to this link, aistudio.google.com/API key, you guys can simply, click on this get API key and then create API key. It's actually pretty straightforward. And then you can just, yeah, use this API key from here, select a project, and it's basically, the homepage for Google AI Studio. It has a lot of stuff. You guys can actually experiment with. I've been trying Gemini 2.5 a lot recently, but yeah, I think Gemini 2.0 Flash is like, one of my most tested models, I would say. Google also, I think, basically announced a lot of stuff in the IO event, which was, I think, yesterday or day before yesterday. I think it was on Friday, yeah. But yeah. So you can just use this to create an API key, and it should be good. And you can then simply paste it in your project or in the env file, and you guys should be good. So moving forward, what I'll do is I'll create a client, and it should be simply GenAI.client API key, which would be I'm providing over here. This is a basic, this is not a agent, and I'm just showing you guys a difference between a normal, because people say like, it isn't like a normal app or something. You already have this. So why do we need an MCP, something like that? So I'm just demythifying all this stuff. Models dot generate underscore content, and then it should be model. I'm going to simply say Gemini 2.0 flag. I think this is correct. And then content. Let's just pass something like, what is the current weather in Boston, right? Let's just say, and then let's just print response dot text, right? So let's just run this file. Okay, clear that. And then if I do Python demo.py. Let's see what we get. Oh, it should be content. It's contents, not content, if I'm right. Let's try it again. Yeah, you guys can see what this is a Gemini 2.0 Flash and what it responds. I'm sorry, I do not have access to live real-time weather data. You guys can see to get current weather conditions for Boston. You see why exactly we need an MCP because it's an LLM model. It can generate stuff, but it's not know it all or something like that. It doesn't know everything. So you can imagine like there can be, let's say, API or anything you guys can do with Gen AI using agent. So yeah, before moving into, let's just go into a little bit of theory because I think you guys need to know what an agent is. Because again, agent is not just a buzzword. It sounds like a buzzword, but yeah, I would say, I think you all know what you all must be using, OpenAI APIs and, all the Vertex AI and these stuff. And you can easily prompt, you can easily get a JSON, input a JSON and get a JSON, something like that. But I think an agent is more like a smart loop. And this is the ADK runtime, by the way, which I think I'm just going to explain over here. This is directly from the ADK documentation. So it's a runner, it's an event loop, and it goes on, you know, when you send a message, it starts working on it, and agent basically thinks on it. Should I give it a reply? Should I ask to use a tool or update something in memory, something like that? And then it just sends an event and runner receives this event, and according to the event it either saves the data, passes it to user interface, or get result from tool. So it's a smart loop, you can say. It basically thinks, what should I do? And then, so for example, if I send this query to an agent in the code which I just showed in the demo, you can see we are still using Gemini 2.0 Flash. It's a smart like LLM model, but why it cannot, do this, right? So, and the reason is why, because it doesn't have access to these tools, which we are going to provide them with the MCP server. So, agent tools, and actually, this should not be agent, this should be brain, or I would say LLM. So, basically, what an agent has a set of tools which we are like, say, using ADK to set up the agent and tools, and brain is basically the LLM. And in our case, we are using Gemini 2.0 Flash. So this is our brain in our case. An agent analyzes a query and thinks over it. Should I use a tool? Let's say we send a message like, what is the current weather in Boston? It will think on it. If we have given it a tool exactly for this, it will simply call this tool and get information from that tool. And then it will use the brain to process it again, LLM to process the information into a better text or something, right? So yeah, it's very similar to this. Yeah, I hope I have explained it properly, but yeah, you guys can just simply use this. I think it's pretty helpful to understand, and just to make this video a little bit short. I'm just skipping over all this stuff. What is a tool? What is an agent? And how does event loop work? I think this is actually, what I showed in my documentation. And what is MCP? I think, again, they have a very good MCP tools in ADK. And also, I think a very cool thing is, yeah, I just wanted to show this to you guys. MCP toolbox for databases, it has a lot of things. Already you can connect it with the MySQL, Postgres. So you can imagine, right? You can connect an LLM with your database, your internal database, and ask it to generate queries or do queries and pass results on it. And I think the applications of this is basically limitless. I think MCP was introduced by Anthropic, but all the other major LLM companies are adhering to it. So in the future, the like, let's say GPT-5 or Gemini to 3.0 would be a lot centric to MCPs, because this is the future of the application development. Like we had web apps and we had mobile apps when the mobile OS, Android and iOS picked up. And now I think in 2025, the age is of agentic AI apps, which is like agentic apps. And maybe in the next year, we'll have another word for agent or AI apps. The core meaning would be still the same, a smart application which can think on its own and make decisions utilizing the tools and everything. That would be an agent. Simple. Let's move into the coding part of it. I'm going to copy this section from this because we are not going to use this over here. Instead, we have this, and I'm going to set this to not an API key. I'm just giving it to os.environ because it can simply read os.environ, and this should be Google underscore API underscore key. Should be good. Right. Yeah. Load.env and yeah. And now what we are going to import some of the libraries and from Google dot Gen AI, we're going to import types, and then from Google dot ADK dot tools. I don't remember all of this correctly, so if this is going to be wrong, I need to check the documentation. But yeah, I think MCP tool dot MCP tool set, if I'm not wrong, MCP underscore tool set, and we are going to import MCP toolset and stdio server. Then we need LLM. We need an LLM agent, right? So again, we are going to from Google dot ADK dot agents dot LLM underscore agent. I'm going to import LLM agent, right? This should be good. And then we need to create an in-memory session. And I think one thing good, again, an advantage, I think, which I didn't talk about is an smart, what's the difference between, I can chain multiple, generate content, right? Like I get response from this and then I can have another response with different input, right? Different content. And I can chain all of this. But once this call is completed, the client doesn't have the context of what was there. I can pass the response, but it doesn't have the full input context, like what did I ask, what the model responds, something like that. It doesn't have that memory stuff. It has a short memory. You ask it, it just forgets, and then you can use the information returned for your next call, but it still doesn't have the complete context of it. It's just using what you have inputted, and that's it. But an agent also has a key component to it, which is a memory. So it takes the record of your whole chat into the memory, and it can use it as a context for itself as well and generate better content. So I think that's the coolest part of the agent is the memory. I think what this is moving forward to is to give I think currently the biggest drawbacks of LLM, in my view, is the memory. You know, I mean, I asked, let's say, OpenAI to code something for me. A software engineer is not going to forget that. If I ask an intern to make a web page with something, and I need to make some changes on it, let's say 1 week or 2 week after, that engineer knows what exactly he did, but ChatGPT is like, I'm looking at this guy at the first time. You know, he's like Loki. I haven't met this guy in my whole life. Yeah, yeah. Chat coming down, from which amazing movie this, iconic meme is. Yeah, just for fun. But let's move ahead with our implementation from Google dot session. You need to import in memory session, right? In memory session, and it should be session service. And then at the last, we just need a runner from Google dot ADK dot runner import run. So these are our import, and just because it's a async call, so I'll call async sio, and it should be good. So I think the first function what we are going to declare over here is a get agent, which will basically return, agent to our, it would actually return like tools and our MCP, our MCP servers, MCP tools, which, and an exit stack, I think, and an agent as well. It will have agent, tool, and an exit stack. I think that's what it will have. And then we'll just pass it in our main function. And then we can pass it in, create an in-memory session and use it to basically perform calls, and runner can make decisions based on the input. And yeah, we can see how it's thinking. So async, async the get underscore agent, again agent, get agent, and then tools, comma, exit stack would be, oh, so what we are going to do is await MCP toolset dot from server, because we are using an existing server, right? We can simply use a local running as well, but yeah, for this case, and I'll show you my source of the MCP server. And I think in the future session, we are going to create our own MCP server as well, which would be pretty interesting, right? Params, connection params equals to stdio server parameters, and then command should be npx. We can use Docker as well for our MCP servers. And then I'm going to show you something. So shout out to H1 Dea. So they have a server, MCP server for weather, and we're going to use this. And I'll link this in the description for this GitHub code. I think it is pretty cool. It's pretty simple to add, and we are going to use these arguments. You can see how to add it. It takes an input as for a forecast location in the US. It takes latitude, longitude as an input, and then returns basically the weather. And just to, yeah, so I'll just copy these two things, right? Over here. Let me just add these two over here. Something which I do a lot is also ignore ignore robots. Cool. I think this should be good. Tools exit stack, then let's just give it a system prompt. System prompt. I'm just going to give a very simple, system. You are an intelligent weather agent, something like this. Just follow the user instruction. Just follow the user to fetch weather information. Cool. Yeah, it's just a simple system prompt, and then we are going to declare our main thing, which will be agent. And you guys can see these tools. This can be multiple tools actually. I think here we have like one, but we can give multiple tools over here. And I think in the some future session we are going to do that as well. So I'm going to name this weather agent and then pass tools, and instructions would be our system prompt, and that should be it. And I think one thing we need as well, the model, right? Name, tools, instruction. It should be instruction. And another thing would be model. And model in this case is simple Gemini 2.0. Gemini 2.0 flag. Easy. You guys can see it's a simple, easy. And this function will return agent, comma, exit stack. A very simple piece of code. It's doing nothing. It's just adding an MCP from, again, shout out to H1Day for creating this MCP server, weather server. And we are just using an existing MCP server and declaring an agent. So we have this part now, basically in simple terms, an agent which has brain as Gemini 2.0 Flash and tools. And tool is our basically weather tool over here, right? Let's just go over the main async def main, and then let's call our agent and exit stack with this, and then let's call a session service session service using in-memory session service. And then now we are going to create a session. Would use the session service dot create session, and then this session would have initial state. For now, our initial state can be just empty object, and then it needs something like app name, which can be simple name weather MCP weather app, and then user ID for this session. I'm just going to give something very simple. Let's say weather app. Weather app. Simple. And then it's a query. So we'll just use the same query, right? QUER1 from this demo. What is the current weather in Boston? Let's just use this over, right? What is the current weather in Boston? And then what we are going to do is we are using the content, declare the content, which would be types dot content, and then it should have, it needs a role. The role would be, in our case, user, right? And then it needs PARTS part, which would be, I'm just skipping over what these all do because you guys can read on the documentation. It's pretty easy. But I'm just giving the content to the, I should say, to the model. So this is basically content, type spot, text. I can also declare some inline data, which can be a file if I want to provide some sort of PDF or an image and something like that. I think, yeah, inline data, and that would be the image or something. And so this should be good. And we need a runner, right? Runner should be runner, and it will need app name, and app name would be weather MCP weather app, which we also declared in the session, right? And then it needs an agent, which will be calling from here, agent, and it needs a session service. So we already have a session service, right? And then we just need to get the response from the runner, right? So response would be runner dot run underscore async and then it needs something like session underscore ID, session ID, content, and then it also needs one more thing. I think user ID, right? User underscore ID, it would be session dot user ID. Yeah, it would be generated by session over here, and we can use it. We already declared weather app, right? So it should be good. And now just async for, because there would be, this loop will run again and again, right? Model will do some thinking. It will still return whenever this loop runs. So message dot content dot parts 0 dot text. I'll show you what the message dot context has, but yeah. And then after once this is done, we'll exit the stack, and then it should be good. So yeah, straightforward code. What is the current weather in Boston? And let's see what does this do. Python app.py. Wait, I forgot a comma over here. Gemini 2.0 Flash. Yep. Yeah, but yeah, I think it should be good. Anyway, Google ADK tools.mcp toolset. Let me check. What did I do wrong? MCP toolset. Google ADK dot tool dot MCP tool dot MCP tool MCP toolset from server. Okay, guys. So yeah, bunch of issues over here. So here's what happened. Google updated their model. Basically, they released a recent version, but they haven't updated their documentation yet. So this is still the live documentation over here. I'll add this URL as well in the description. But what happened over here is they removed the from server and basically added like these functions. They don't need to be async. But yeah, I think the documentation is not updated yet. And from where I found this from the change log. Then I found like agent or device structure with MCP tools are now easier and simpler. And this is before, which we are using right now, right? From server agent exist stack. And this is tools, and this is basically like allowing like multiple tools in a tool set, in a single tool set, and it doesn't return any, you can see it has LLM agent, it doesn't return any anything, any exit stack. So yeah, but haven't updated the documentation, so we are a bit of stuck. I've already added an issue, and once I have the update, I'll do. So here's what I'll update the code. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna uninstall Google ADK, which we have over here, right? Oh, so I already have 0.50, but yeah, you will see that you have 1.0.0, and you have to uninstall, and you have to install basically 0.50. So we can how to do that. You can simply go to, where is that, right? And then you can go to the release history over and 0.50 and just copy paste it, right? And it should be good. So we have 0.50 version over here. And another issue, if you guys see, this is an invalid name, so we need underscore over here. And also, content is not past just content. It should be new message, and that should be good. So let's just try this. Let's see if this runs. Okay, weather MCP running on. Okay, so it says I need latitude and longitude of Boston. So basically, what it does, it it's running the tool MCP server, and it's basically analyzing what it needs. You guys can see over here. this needs latitude and longitude. So let's just simply do this. Boston latitude. Yeah. In the next session, we'll actually build another MCP. So you can see, like, we can chain multiple MCP servers, right? One can just simply call, like, you know, get the latitude and longitude, and another can use this. But yeah, we'll do this in the next session. But let's just move ahead with this and try this, right? And now I have added the session, and it just returned like you guys. Okay, you guys can see tonight temperature is 50. Today is Memorial Day. Fun fact in Boston, it's giving basically, yeah, for the whole week, I guess. Oh, day and night. For let's say current weather in Boston. What's the current weather in Boston? Let's say for today. Today. Today, Boston mostly cloudy. Temperature of 50 Fahrenheit. Winds. The forecast for Memorial Day is currently mostly sunny with 63 Fahrenheit. It returns, and then we can just check like from Google. Let's just do this. Right, 58 Fahrenheit. I think. Yeah, 60, 50. I think that's what it's showing over here. Yeah, 50, and it's just showing like, yeah, wind speed 3 to 7 mph. Very similar. Yeah, 3 to 7 mph, 4 mph. So yeah, it's already, I guess, like night in Boston. So yeah, you guys can see how we can. So this is the whole demo of it. How we can use MCP server to Google ADK for MCP for running the MCP server and give the context to the LLM image. Yeah. Let me know if you guys have any questions. But yeah, in the comment box, I'll give answer, and as soon as I have update on the version 1.0.0, I'll basically update. I'll pin in the link. Yeah. No, so that would be it for today. Thank you guys.